Welcome to How To Friday. Guess what? We're going to talk about how to start your podcast. Stick with me. I'll be right back. Welcome to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. This podcast was created for the boomer woman leaving corporate, and now you're looking to reinvent yourself, become an author, an entrepreneur, a podcaster. Well, each episode will leave you with clarity. You will come away with the yes, I can and yes, I will reinvent myself mindset. So come on, let's do this. I'm your host, Margo Lovett. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Another episode here at Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. Well, it is How To Friday. Yes. And today we are going to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, and that's how to produce, how to actually create a podcast. But I thought we'd start out with letting you know what a podcast is. I understand that 75% of all American households have listened to at least one podcast, but it takes me back to a very funny story where I was speaking at an engagement and there were about 30, 40 people there in the room ready to hear about podcasting. And before we got started, one dear lady boldly raises her hand. She says, Miss Margo. I said, Miss Barbara, what's up? And she said, what is a podcast? So after we all fell out laughing, I decided every time I talk about podcasting, do not assume that everybody knows what a podcast is. So let me break it down into real minor terms. A podcast is where you're seated in front of your computer. You've done a show, an episode, but that's a lot of information. Even if it's just audio, that's a lot of information, and you can't redistribute it. You can't send it to someone else so that they can enjoy it when it has the intro, the outro, everything together. You can't do that without having it condensed and processed. So what you do is download it on your computer, excuse me, and then you want to upload it to what we call a host. And that host, whatever your choice may be, it is going to process that information, that audio, that video, and you've already set up on distribution where you want it to go: Apple, Spotify, iHeart. Distribute it throughout the globe. And once it's processed, it's positioned right there on that host. Boom. Everyone has access to your information. That's it in a nutshell. So now that we know what a podcast is, my next question always to a person is, why do you want to have a podcast? Is it because everybody else has a podcast? Is it because you've been thinking about starting your own podcast for some time? And it's time. You've done some research. You've listened to podcasts. What is your great big why? And it's always personal. Everybody pretty much says the same thing. I would boldly venture to say, but at the end of the day, that why is something that's so very personal to you, because you want to get your message out to the world, because you have a stellar course, a product, or the industry that you are working in. You want to expand and explain what's going on and make it crystal clear always to everybody what's really going on in your industry, in your business, in your mind, in your community. You're using it as a vehicle to share information. It's literally become your source for media. Whatever your why is, there's no right, there's no wrong. Just understand and document what that is. All right. Next thing, how do you get started? How do you set up a podcast? A lot of people say, wow, I bought the mic, I bought the mixer, and I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. Well, let's take it from the very beginning. I keep it simple. At the height of the pandemic in 2020, I created podcastacademyonline.com, where I teach boomers, folks that don't know much at all about a podcast. We actually imagine, we create, we build, and then we launch podcasts. So I keep it very simple. I say, don't go for the high end mic. First of all, you're going to need your mic. You are going to want to have earbuds or a headset, and I don't have my headset right now, or you'll want to have what I call a headset and microphone combo, have them together, but you want to make that purchase early on. Okay, so your mic, your earbuds, your headset, or your headset and earbud, headset and microphone combination. All right, you want to do that early on. You're going to go ahead and plug this stuff into your computer. You're going to decide, how am I going to record this podcast? Are you going to use Zoom? Are you going to use Audacity? There are quite a few different ways that you can record a podcast these days. So my suggestion is that you get in some type of course, a class, and find out your options, get the one that you're comfortable with, and just start recording. All right. After you record it, then you're going to want to edit it. You've heard the people start up the podcast at the very beginning. There's the music, or they're speaking. That's your intro. So how do you put your intro together? How intro with what you've recorded, with the arrivederci, the bye-bye that many people put together. Plus, how do you make sure that your content is not real high and low, and you want to make sure that it's equal and it's not in and out? And if you have had an interview with your guest, you want to make sure that everything's on the same level playing field, not too high, not too low, level, equalized. Well, there's software that will do all of that for you. Alec too. Buzzsprout has a software that's built into their package. There are, once again, so many different ways to edit your podcast. All right. It's up to you to once again choose what you are comfortable with using, and you can implement that into your process for producing your podcast. All right, so we have the mic, we have the earbuds, we've recorded our podcast. Now we've edited, we've done the editing. Now let's upload it to our host. Our host being the place where it's going to be all processed. All right. So we upload it and we hit the button one time. The first time we hit the button, and from that point on, every time we upload it, it's going to be processed. We schedule when that episode is going to be released to the world and where it's going to go, and the rest is history. That's podcasting in a nutshell. That's it in a nutshell. And let me look down at my notes because I want to make sure that I don't miss anything, because I'm making this stuff so very basic. I want you to understand there's a lot of work that goes into podcasting, but once you get your rhythm, that's why I said a couple of times, find the software that you're comfortable with working with so that you can have your process. And then it's just what you do. It's what you do so that you have a polished podcast for the world. Now, this is good. How do you use your podcast for your business? There are a myriad ways, but the main thing that comes to mind is that you can put it inside of your newsletter. You can put it inside of your newsletter. You can, of course, always put it in your media pack, most definitely, but you always put it inside of your newsletter because it's going to position you as an expert. It solidifies the fact that you know what you're talking about. So if you are a life coach, when you have a podcast, then you break it into subject matter that's going to reflect and let everybody know that you know what you're talking about. And then you place that over in your newsletter, or you can do, as they call it, a capsule podcast, and you're just covering the FAQs, the questions that people always ask. Once again, you can turn that into video, place it at the very end of each and every email. Once again, put it in your newsletter. When you can attach it to your invoices. There's so much that you can do when you're in business that you can do with a podcast. And of course, my goodness, it is an excellent marketing tool. Add it to your marketing campaign. So if you are an author, if you are a brand new podcaster, brand new podcaster, if you are a brand new entrepreneur, how can you use a podcast for media? And I'm just going to tell you a couple of ways that I used it and got some pretty doggone good results and continue to. I say, and I know that when you do a podcast and you are consistent, you have to be consistent. When you are consistently doing your podcast, there are certain people in media, they're going to watch you and they're going to approach you to collaborate with them because of your content, your consistency. All right. So when I was approached by WOMEL magazine, WOMEL, the corporation won't lead the magazine, I was able to I was able to choose the episodes that I wanted to have published in that magazine each and every month. So it wasn't just myself who was in the magazine, but it was my guest also who was in the magazine. How thrilling is that? So stay consistent. Somebody's watching you. Somebody will approach you. Or if there's a magazine, there's a newspaper that you want to contribute to, stay consistent. Go ahead and once again get that media pack. Oh my goodness, when you are a podcaster, you definitely want to have a media kit. Let me tell you what happened with my media kit. I took a class, a 3-day class, and she taught us how to professionally put together a media kit that will pique the interest of producers, other speakers, on and on and on. It's what represents you. Let me put that in, since I'm putting everything in a nutshell. It is what represents you, the other news outlets, media coverage. It has your high definition photograph so that people can download it. Podcasters always need a high definition photograph and something that is pretty recent, not 10 years old. Always have your bio, that type of thing. It just, it's your, yeah, it talks about who you are, what you are doing, who you've done things with. It's everything in a nutshell. So you always want to have that kit ready. Somebody ask for it, boom, have it digital so that you can send that on off. Okay. I did exactly what the woman suggested. It's Beth Nidick, as a matter of fact, Beth Nidick. So I created a media pack and I added to and updated what I already had, which is always something that we always have to do. You have to keep your media pack, your media kit updated. That has to happen. So I followed her instructions. I updated it. It's going to be over on my website. But long story short, it caught the eye of a producer. So we shall see what's going to happen with that producer. But I was filled with overjoyment because at the end of the day, I just created it. I had just updated. I just got sent that out and it caught the eye of somebody that can really make a difference in my life and a difference for my show. So I say all of that to say, let me adjust the mic. I say all of that to say, podcasting will produce it's content for your media pack. It's also content for your press release. Let me tell you what happened to me when I added video to a press release. A podcaster approached me because she was working in hand with a PR company that was looking to do press releases and circulate those press releases to all of the major outlets. And I said yes. I was a brand new podcaster, hadn't been doing podcasting probably 6 months, but it sounded like something that should be done. And that's what I did. Let me tell you, she circulated, sent that over to her people. They circulated it. Long story short, I did not end up on any video in studio conversations with a producer, but my my content ended up over on ABC affiliates, NBC affiliates, Fox affiliates, and CW affiliates over on the internet. I can't tell you how many magazines picked it up that month and published that press release. So it was very thrilling, fulfilling opportunity. And it's something that I think that each and every author, each and every coach, strategist, each and every entrepreneur should experience and do. Now, I spoke with Beth Neidick about this, and she is a PR person. She's been in television production for over 20 years. She says now the press releases are for the big boys, but I can just tell you what happened for me. So I say, have your interview ready. Have a interview ready so that when someone comes knocking, you have everything in place. And this is where I come in with a brand new podcast that I'm introducing. It's called Business Card Radio with Margo Lovett. And I created it as a platform for the brand new author. And you have to be in the self development arena industry. But I created it as a platform for the author, for the consultant, for the coach, the life coach, the coaches, everyone who works in the life, in the everyone who works in the self-development, self-care industry. I know that it gets a bit saturated and you can be lost in the noise. So, Business Card Radio with Margo Lovett is an opportunity for you to come on and we will have a conversation. And it's recorded. This is strictly video. And you see how clear this presentation is. I'm using the same software for each and every person that decides to be a guest on Business Card Radio with Margo Lovett. So once again, I created it for the author, for the podcaster, for the coach, for the consultant, someone who's working in the self-development industry. You want some media, you want some PR. I'm not a PR company, but I can give you a solid interview that you can in turn use it in your media packet, that you in turn can cut up and turn into one of your commercials, that you in turn can use it in your social media. I think you get the idea and your picture that once you do a commercial, once you do a interview, there's a life that it takes on and you can use it over and over and over again. I told you about what happened when I put my podcast inside of a press release. And I told you what happened when I put my media packet kit and had that together and was able to send that off. So these are real stories. These are things that that happened for me. They can definitely happen for you. So I'm currently taking applications and it is by application only. I want to make sure that we're a good fit. Can we have that really awesome conversation? That's all that matters. So I'm taking applications now. Go to my website, margolovett.com. It is Business Card Radio with Margo Lovett. I think at the very top tab, it's BR Radio, BC Radio. This is brand new. Yes, brand new. And read through all of the documentation that I have there because a few things I want you to consider before you say yes, you want to be a guest. So Excuse me. And I'm not cutting that out. Look at the clarity. Listen to the sound quality. This is the software that I use for Business Card Radio with Margo Lovett. All right. I think that's it for How To Friday, talking about my favorite subject, podcasting. So we covered what a podcast is, how do you set up your podcast, what a podcast can do for you in business, and what a podcast did for me, and it can do the same for you when you incorporate it into a press release or your media kit, your media packet. All right. Well, I'll be back next week with a brand new episode next Thursday. It is going to be Inspiration Thursday. We're doing all of that right over here. Podcast at Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. Speaking of Podcast Academy Online.com, if you want to learn how to imagine, create, and launch your podcast, we do all of that at Podcast Academy Online.com. All right. So we have a new class that's beginning the end of June 2021. And I want you to be a part of it if you're past the tire kicking stage. And if you don't know what tire kicking is, then you're going to have to take a listen to the Inspiration Thursday episode that I put out. All right. So I have a couple of things that I'm offering to you, and it is for you to be a guest. If you are in the self-help, self-development industry, author, coach, consultant, podcaster, I want you to go to my website. Let's see. Do you want to be a guest? Are you a good fit? This is something that you want to do where the world hears from you and you alone. That show is Business Card Radio with Margo Lovett. You are the star. It is your show. You are the commercial. No other information is going forward except for what you put out. All right. Then we have, for those of you who really want to learn how to podcast and do it successfully, there's Podcast Academy Online.com. I have way too many. Now, I'm not going to say way too many things going on, but I have a lot of things going on, and they're all things podcasting. And then at the end of the day, if you want clarity on your why, you've been thinking about podcasting, but you need to really understand why you want to podcast. Go over to my website, margolovett.com, and I have a free gift for you. It is my manifesto on podcasting and reinventing to become a podcaster. And we take a deep dive look at your why. And it's in beautiful workbook form. So I hope that you pick that up, get a copy of that. It's free to you. That's it, really. That's it for How To Friday. Giving you a lot of options, giving you some information, make a move. Let's not let this weekend be one of tire kicking. Let's let it be one of action. I'm Margo Lovett, Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. I'll be back next week, another episode. Bye-bye now. I want to thank you for listening to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. Couple of things that I want you to do right now. Go to my website, pick up a copy of Her Business, Her Voice, Her Reinvention, how I went from game show hopping to international show host, author, and speaker in 1 year. Number 2, please freely listen to each and every episode. Share them out with your family, friends, the men in your lives. And then number 3, get in contact with me, one of the experts that have been on the show, because I want to make sure that you reinvent yourself. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode here on Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation.